Hi students. I guess I've started this already, so here. This is a little bit longer, so I was just reviewing my notes. In Chapter 7, we're going to learn about various methods to document information. So most of you know that you can type in information, you can write it in. You can use a touchpad, you can do check boxes, you can do voice activation, many different methods. But there's also something I wanted to tell you about, and it's called templates. Now, some of you may have used a template in the past. The most common probably would be for a resume, where you just download the template and it has certain topics and headings and subheadings that you just fill in the information. And doctors like to use these templates. But here's the problem. I just want to briefly talk about a template can be very useful, and but it can also be a hindrance. And the reason I say it can also be a hindrance is that some information is already populated in the template that a physician does regularly, but perhaps they didn't do it for that particular patient. So now what? They have to remember to erase that information from the template when they're filling it in, and that could be an issue because if they didn't do it and they left it there, it's documented as though they did. So that can mean it. Anyway, it's a choice. Physicians can use templates if they want or just eliminate them entirely, but they do come with all the electronic health records. We're also going to learn about e-prescribing in this chapter. Now, the main reason that we even started implementation of an electronic health record is e-prescribing. This task is not for the clinical medical assistant. It's important to know it, but the physician is the only one who can e-prescribe. Even if you're asked to do so, it is not within your scope and you must say no. So e-prescribing is, well, you can only imagine that many medication errors occur, and this should eliminate some. One of the things your book says is that the software can incorporate the rules for the different insurances. And there are so many different types of insurance, or what we call third-party payers. So it's very helpful if we know the rules. And so the e-prescribing, when we're e-prescribing it, we'll check those rules against their insurance so that we're following that. And we can also check to see that it is covered under their plan, because not all plans cover the same medication. Also, the software can check if the medication prescribed will conflict with something they're already taken, or perhaps with an allergy that they have. And we'll get this in real time. We don't have to wait for that. We don't have to wait for them to go to the pharmacy and give them a prescription and have the pharmacist tell them, oh, I'm not going to be able to give this to you, and then they have to call the physician and so on. So this cuts down on time. So the physicians use what's called order entry to put in their to e-prescribe. They can also use order entry for labs or x-rays or any other procedures that they want to order for the patient. It's all in the same place. So there's a certain test there. So an example of a lab order would be something where the physician can choose a panel of different labs, or they can just select individual labs. And if there are, they have the patient's pharmacy of choice in there, or the lab of choice in there, they just simply send it on over. And that way, if the patient wants to go right then, they can go get it done, or they could go the next day. Perhaps it's late in the day and they'll go back in the morning, but the lab now has that paperwork. So lastly, this chapter is going to cover medical coding basics. Now we're going to just touch on it in this chapter. We're not going to get the in-depth that we will get in our coding class, because as you know, this class is the EHR and billing. So we're going to talk about coding as it relates to billing, not coding in general. So here, let's see, it's covered on the PM side. Do you remember all the billing stuff, all the coding, anything that has to do with finance is all on the practice management side, not within the EHR. But remember that this is a fully integrated system with both sides being that they can share information. So anyway, once the note is done, the physician has completed the note, the coding is done, and now the note is ready to be turned over to the billing staff. So really, billing is going to need to verify every code, every diagnosis, every procedure that's done, and we're going to cover the entire billing process in chapters 8 through 11. So I'll see you in lab.